Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads for this month's tier list. And today we are going to be doing one that's a little different than normal posters. This is requested by our patrons and YouTube members. So if you'd like to become a patron and YouTube member, you can check out which platform is right for you, pick your tier, and then you get to vote every single month on what tier list we do. So we're going to rank all of the theatrical Star Wars posters, or at least the main theatrical Star Wars posters from all 11 movies, not the TV shows, not anything that was directly released for home like Caravan of Courage, although there's some good posters for those. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't subscribed for more tier lists, we do a tier list every month, like I mentioned earlier. If you want to check out our last tier list, it was canon novels, our 2024 update. All right, let's get into our first one here, and we're going to start in release order, as we always do. And the first poster we're going to talk about is pretty darn simple. It is the teaser poster for Star Wars. The original Star Wars logo is there. It's iconic. I feel like I can't give this any higher than a C, personally.
Same thoughts here. It's interesting. Like, it is big and bold, but the interest fades pretty quickly. Next up, we have the Star Wars Style 8 poster. This one is pretty famous, and I think comes down to more of like the clothing that Luke and Leia wear, the Darth Vader iconography. It's not truly what Star Wars looks like or feels like, but it evokes the spirit of it. And I think it evokes it in a really great way. It leans heavily into the fantasy. This is like a film pointing out, hey, we're space fantasy, not sci-fi. Honestly, this is my favorite poster ever. I think this is hard to beat. So easy S tier.
I agree, easy S tier. I do absolutely love that this isn't made straight out of the movie, right? It doesn't feature, I mean, it features Luke and Leia, but it doesn't feature a Luke that looks anything like Mark Hamill or a Leia that looks anything like Carrie Fisher. A lot of the design was still to come. This was the pure fantasy of this story. And I've always loved that. So classic sci-fi, so classic fantasy. It's one of my favorite pieces of art ever for any movie. Well, so we go to the Style C poster for the original Star Wars movie, and here we have the full cast. This is where you get everybody. I really love this poster as well. This is what in today's world would be much more like the traditional Photoshop posters we get of everybody kind of floating out there, but this one's much more artistically done, not just the fact that it's hand drawn, but I love the way the X-Wings merge in with the larger characters. I've also always loved the way Vader's lightsaber looks here. The hilt, it looks much more like a sword. So for me, this is still an S tier. I would put it behind the other one, but it's an S tier for me as well.
For me, this is actually more of an A tier. It's not that it's bad. I totally agree. It is nice to see kind of the floating heads, but stylized with the full body, more of that finalized look. I think it does everything right. What I don't truly love is kind of the reuse of like the white trim and then the logo kind of being moved down. I still love it quite a bit, but for me, it's an A tier.
I have a lot of posters that I really love on here, so I want to see how the rest of your S's shake out before we change up our tier list.
All right. Well, then next we'll go to the Star Wars 1978 D style poster. And for me, I'm really not a big fan of it. I think it's a little too over stylized. It kind of goes for like those pulp novel looks. This one kind of reminds me more of like a really cool book cover. Fortunately, it is a bit of a C tier for me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a surprise to me. Kind of all the reasons you said as one of the reasons I really love this poster. It's not an S tier for me. I would put it in A, but I love how 70s this is. This is super 70s, super pulp sci-fi. And that's one of the reasons why I really like it, is because it just screams to me the inspirations for Star Wars. It's so Flash Gordon. This is such a Flash
Yeah.
Gordon Star Wars poster. But if you're putting it in C and I put it in A, then that does make it a B on our joint tier list. Next up, we have the Empire Strikes Back teaser poster. And this one is very simple as well. It's just Darth Vader floating over an Empire Strikes Back logo. But when I look at this, I think back to watching that original teaser for The Empire Strikes Back narrated by Harrison Ford. I don't think it's a great poster, but I was going to put it in B tier.
I have a lot of the same feelings. I do remember just how similar it is to that teaser. On paper, isn't anything special, but it's because of the influence of Vader and how his role is in that story that I think they nailed it. Like, this is Vader's film. I still put this as a B tier, but I do have a lot of appreciation for it. Next up, we have the Empire Strikes Back Style A poster. This is one of my favorite posters of all time too. I just love having Han and Leia in the center. Obviously, the Vader kind of loom in the background, tragic and doomed, and yet still not the conclusion. And it's going to be like a swirl of events that you just are going to get caught up by and the atmosphere of it. And I think this poster just absolutely nails it. So for me, this is S tier.
This is my number one. I love this poster. I love everything about this, but I love the composition of this poster. I love the colors. I love the way the ice of Hoth takes up the bottom, but then you still have the X-wings and ships on top. You have the tease of Luke on the Tauntaun. The main piece of this is the Vader mask looming over everything. And I think that's perfect for this movie. It represents everything so well, like you mentioned before, Vader being such a big character in this. Next up, we have the Empire Strikes Back Style B poster. And this is a really good one as well. Definitely underrated and underseen. Whereas, Star Wars' Style A, B, and C posters are so iconic. The pulpiness of this, the fact that Vader is so big, he's so dominating over everything. I prefer the shadowy kind of mask of Vader that you see in the original poster, but I love how he in this poster is so much bigger than every other character and how every character is looking up at him. I do love what they did with Lando, the stormtroopers, and for me, this would be another S tier. I really love this poster.
This is a tough one because I agree with a lot of what you said. I absolutely love how Vader's kind of stepping through this kind of mistiness, the snowiness of Hoth. But like you said, it's kind of the floating heads and kind of almost the over stylization of like just the line work and the art. Something about it just feels off, especially when you see that Empire Strikes Back tilted logo underneath. It doesn't really work the same for me. I'm only going to give this an A tier. And then next up, we have the 1982 re-release poster for Empire Strikes Back. Hot take, this is one of my favorite old-time ones. I love the arrangement here, right? I don't necessarily love kind of like the archway on top and all that, and then the borders, but when you see the art and how it's kind of been tweaked to make it look a little bit better, a little bit more pristine in my mind, this became an S tier for me.
For me, this was an A tier. I love this poster as well. The only thing that brings it down a little bit for me is being a re-release poster. The version of Vader that's in this is the exact same one that's in the other poster that we just talked about, the Style B poster for Empire Strikes Back. Not being as original with this art, basically just a recomposition of a lot of different things we've already seen. Han in this one is also not wearing his Han from Empire Strikes Back outfit, so that stuck out to me as well. And to me, it's a little bright for Empire Strikes Back. I still do love the way it looks. I think composition-wise, it's immaculate and beautiful. It just doesn't scream Empire Strikes Back to me as much as the other two we talked about. Next up, we have an interesting one, and that's the Revenge of the Jedi poster. For those of you who might not know, Revenge of the Jedi was the original title of Return of the Jedi before they changed it. And this was the initial teaser poster for Return of the Jedi. And I always have loved this poster as well. I think the composition is beautiful as a teaser poster. What can get you really more excited than a giant Vader head, and in the corner, you've got Luke and Vader fighting again, or what you assume to be Luke. But the contrast between blue and red, I think, works really, really well here. The overwhelming red with a little bit of the blue fighting back. This is yet another one that I would have said S tier for.
Well, unfortunately, I do not have a lot of the same high opinions about this. I do like the composition. Revenge of the Jedi logo for me can kind of carries this. I don't truly love the Luke kind of getting that reddish lightsaber and Vader's got that blue. I think if it had the Return of the Jedi logo and you swapped out the lightsaber colors, I would have actually bumped this up to A for me, but it's actually a B.
That splits the middle and makes it A for us.
Next up, we have the Return of the Jedi teaser poster. I'm a big fan of this one. I really do like the simplicity of it. After wave, after effect of the lightsaber like swing up into the prime position, reaching up to the logo. Purity of the poster just comes through, but like a hero rising up in this moment. So I give this an easy A tier.
I would agree. A tier. I think if you're not counting Revenge of the Jedi as a teaser poster, this is the best teaser poster from the original trilogy. I think it's awesome. I would put it personally behind Revenge of the Jedi. Jedi. We're just going to have to reorder these all at the end. I'm just going to start putting them in the tier that we pick, and then at the end, we can do the exact order. Next up, we have the main poster for Return of the Jedi, and this to me is another excellent poster. It's not as good as A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. It is a little bit more crowded. One of the main things I love, and one of the things I love on almost every poster, is the way Vader is positioned. I love that he's fading into the stars. He's just another ominous presence. He looks so good here. I've always really loved the way he looks. I mean, you have kind of a weird shot of Lando looking up in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, but it does tease the fact that he might fly the Millennium Falcon in this movie. My biggest critique with this has always been the weird kind of pudgy version of Wicket. He looks really different than he does in the movie. I really like the art style here. It's very different too than the original two movies. This would be an S tier for me. I have a lot of memories with this poster. I really do love it.
Yeah, I have a lot of same thoughts. I really do like a lot of elements. The thing that keeps it up fairly high for me is that there's something a little bit more spacey about this Vader. It's like he's kind of fading away. He's becoming stardust almost. I think it is a fairly smart poster with the original trilogy cast, the main three. The side ones are where it's like, I wish maybe we did something a little different with Lando's look. It is arranged really well. I think that's what really helps it. So the arrangement and the original trilogy cast and Vader. I think it all works up. So for that reason, I'll give it an A. Next up, we have the first of the special edition posters. I really do like this poster. I think the yellow, the hues of the sunlight, the fact that this at this point is known as A New Hope, this really feels like a poster evoking A New Hope. I really have a hard time giving it a lot of love. So I'll say bottom of A.
This was yet another S tier for me. I love this poster so much, and it is by far my favorite of the three special editions. Drew Struzan is an incredible artist. It is absolutely the colors, the orange, the purple, the blue, makes this one work so much better than the other two. It's also four big characters of the movie versus when we talk about some of the other special edition posters, they're kind of a random assortment of characters. But I love the way the X-Wings and Y-Wings fly through. I just think this captures the spirit of A New Hope so well. So this would be another S tier for me. I'm going to put it in A tier for now, and we'll fight about it in a little bit. And then we get to the Empire Strikes Back special edition poster. I love the Palpatines in it. I love that Vader's in it. I think the TIE fighters are arranged really well. Really, the composition of this poster is excellent. Sometimes we complain about too many characters. For me, it's maybe a little bit of an absence of characters here.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it's just all Vader and then like one picture of Palpatine. I still do like this one better than Return of the Jedi special edition poster. I think it's an A tier.
Yeah, I have a lot of the same feelings. This is an easy A tier. I think what really works here is that it's trying to say the character is just the Empire. The Empire is quite literally striking out. For me, it's the gleam of Vader's helmet that really works. It does feel like it's missing characters. It's just a character and like different embodiments of it. Next up, we conclude the special editions with the Return of the Jedi special edition one. I still like a lot about this. I think finally kind of capturing the greens was really important for me. It does kind of feel like they started just kind of throwing characters on this poster. Like I'll always love Chewbacca, but I've never really thought Chewbacca should be kind of almost taking a third of the poster. Did we really need Jabba that up front and center? Like I don't know. It feels like you could have gone for some other characters like a Lando or something else that could have gone a bit more spotlight. I also give this an A.
I completely agree. This is still an A for me. I love the colors. I love the centerpiece being Luke and Vader, even if it is the Luke and Vader from The Empire Strikes Back and not from Return of the Jedi, but it's paying homage to the Revenge of the Jedi poster. And I love how Yoda looks in here. I love 3PO, R2, Boba. It is really just Chewbacca and Jabba that have always thrown it off a little bit for me. I think it still looks beautiful. A tier is absolutely fair for it. Then we have the teaser poster for The Phantom Menace getting into the prequels here. And we also at the same time get into our first like pictures of real people posters.
Yeah.
Normally, not that big a fan of those types of posters. I always have loved the way they did this. It's simple. It captures the spirit of the prequel trilogy. This was the thing that was getting people hyped. I've always thought this was a fantastic poster. It's an A tier for me.
I disagree but in a positive way because I think this is an S tier poster. Going with a shadow of him, right? Instead of like some imagery with his face mask or something. What's gonna come out of him, right? What's lurking underneath that surface? And having Jake Lloyd kind of look down as he's walking, right? It's an S tier. Next up, we have the Style A poster for Phantom Menace, just having Maul, just the devil basically behind them, right? It's just Anakin being at the center of this, like the story is just sparking off, and then the queen with this incredible look to her, and Qui-Gon, because again, this is really Qui-Gon's story in so many ways. I've always been partial to what Lucas did here with the logo. That lens flare is just a cherry on top. So for all those reasons, S tier.
I agree. S tier. This is an immaculate poster. It looks so good. I love the slogan of the movie that was in all the marketing. Every saga has a beginning. And that being at the top with Maul in the background. Qui-Gon looks great. Yeah, absolutely an S tier. Next up, we have the teaser poster for Attack of the Clones. When you compare this poster to the Phantom Menace teaser, I don't think it's quite as good, but it does get across the same message. I love the way Anakin and Padme are juxtaposed here. The red lightsaber is also intriguing, but again, it is just two people standing opposite of each other. I think it's very artfully done, but for me, this would be like a B tier.
Controversial thing gonna come out of my mouth, but I'm not a huge fan of this. Almost reminds me more of like the Dooku Anakin fight where you kind of get the light mixed in with the shadow and the darkness. And I also just don't like how small the logo is at the bottom. It's a C tier for me. Next up, of course, we have the Attack of the Clones. It's so good. I really, really do like this one. I love how Yoda's look is here. I always remember the scene of that. Django's got swagger. I just don't understand why he's kind of brought to that forefront as much as maybe bringing in some clones. I'm being a little too negative about it because at the end of the day, I still give it an A tier.
This is my least favorite of the three prequel movie main posters, but I did still give it an S tier. The way Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme look is just perfect. Love the way Drew Struzan plays with light all the time. He's a master of playing with light. And the blue light on Obi-Wan's face, I think, works really, really well. So this would still be an S tier for me. I still love this one, but it would be lower down than the Phantom Menace for sure. Next up, we have the IMAX poster for Attack of the Clones. And this one, a lot of you might not have seen. This is one I've always really liked, so I threw it in here. I've always really liked this as a novelty. It's a really cool poster. It doesn't necessarily scream Star Wars. It would be a B tier for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. It feels fairly gimmicky. I just don't really care too much about all the monuments of our real world. It just doesn't work for me. So I give it a C. I think it's unique. Next up, we have the Revenge of the Sith teaser poster. I like the idea. I don't love the execution. I don't think the helmet really fits for the cape. I'm putting it in B tier.
I agree, B tier. I really like the idea as well. I think this could have been brilliant today, but it doesn't look great. The mask doesn't look very good in the cape. Love the orange and red that they used to promote pretty much everything in Revenge of the Sith. So it was at the bottom of my B tier as well. Next up, we have the main poster for Revenge of the Sith. And let's just get this out of the way. I absolutely love this poster. I love how Vader's a little bit off center. I love the Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme heads there. I think the clashing of the blue lightsabers mixed with the purple and green lightsabers of Yoda and Mace Windu, I think it looks great. I've always really liked the menacing, scary looking and Palpatine down there as well. The Mustafar lava trickling down the poster, but it's absolutely an S tier for me.
I have a lot of similar thoughts. I think I would have gone for a different Padme one personally. I don't think this is one of her better looks in the film. The one thing that really brings this one down for me is actually the Palpatine look. I don't know if I really love that specific shot or angle because there's so many iconic, not just iconic, meme worthy ones too, for sure. But there's just something about that that just feels like, was that the one you could have gone for? Since I didn't really push a lot into S tier, I put this as my top of A. Next up, we have the Revenge of the Sith style B poster. I like that it's just emphasizing Mustafar. It's emphasizing coming to blows to the end of Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship. All of it works really well for me. It's an A tier.
I agree. This is an A tier for me. This image just is one of the main things I think about when I think of Star Wars, with how much it was a part of my foundation in Star Wars. It is simple. It is straight to the point, and I think that's what makes it so great. It's also artfully done. So yeah, absolutely an A tier for me. Next up, we have the Clone Wars movie poster. The Clone Wars movie didn't have the best animation, a little bit better than maybe season 1 did. I do like the lens flare and kind of keeping with the spirit of the explosions and stuff. The focus being on the 4 main characters, also getting to see Rex and Cody on the sides. It really is just the fact that the animation style here is not the best. I would give this one like a C.
Yeah, this is one I also struggled with a little bit. It's trying to really emphasize the Clone Wars of it, right? Like here you can see more of the individual ones. Again, loved all the main characters. I love the Venator. I love the Lat. It's a low B, but I think it's because they were just pretty wisely just doing what's needed for this poster. Next up, we have the Phantom Menace's 3D re-release poster. And I've liked the poster because it's emphasizing the nostalgia and like what do you remember about the film? Again, goes down to the whole idea of like, hey, it's small. And then one big thing that I really like about this poster, the pod racing. That's something I wish I got to see in 3D. For that reason alone, I give it a nice solid B.
I did get to see this in 3D, and I can't tell you I remember what the pod racing looked like, but I'm sure it was pretty cool. But I'm going to be pretty different from you on this one. I don't think this is a great poster. Kind of comparing it a little bit to the re-release poster we just got for Phantom Menace. This is just super basic. A bunch of floating pictures of people, kind of a cloudy background, and just the main things that were the most popular basically out of this movie, right? But overall, this is one of my least favorite Star Wars posters. This one is just feels half-assed to me, if I'm being honest. So I actually put this one in D tier. So that
Wow.
means we split the middle and we put it in C. That brings us to the sequel trilogy, starting with the first poster for The Force Awakens, the D23 teaser poster, bringing back Drew Struzan. I was at D23 for this, got this poster, still have it. I really do love a lot of the things about it. Of course, the way they depict Kylo Ren here, kind of fading off in the back, is very ominous. Definitely more of an homage to the way they treated Vader and a lot of the other stuff. I like the character designs. I think it all looks nice and the colors look great here. This is still like a B tier poster for me. There's not too much on here. It's relatively safe when it comes to Drew Struzan.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree a little bit. I think, this was never going to be to the same level as a prequel poster. It's just an element that he wasn't going to ever match. And I don't think he ever really wanted to. I agree. It feels like the right hand side with Kylo and like the TIE fighters is done really well as an homage. And just seeing Han Solo here, I've still liked it quite a bit as like a sort of teaser poster. So I've actually given it an A tier. Next up, we get to the main poster for The Force Awakens, the Style A poster, and it's good. It's good. I think it is in a lot of ways fairly safe. You've got the big logo, you got every character fit in here some shape or form. But I do like kind of how Kylo's lightsaber lines up with Rey's stance with her staff here. It does a good job, but I think I give it still an A tier, but I do think it is quite safe.
Yeah, this is a pretty safe poster in my opinion. This is out of all the sequel art, which every sequel movie went for such different styles. It's very hard to compare them. For me, this was one of my least favorite art styles that they went for just because it just screams 2015 blockbuster. It doesn't necessarily scream Star Wars as much. Star Wars just has such great posters overall that even something like this that I think is pretty good, it doesn't reach like the top level for me. Next up are the Force Awakens character posters. Now, just in general, I'm not a big character poster person. This is one of my least favorite. It's just a person on there. And even though it looks really nice, just a person. So I put it in C tier.
Yeah, I put this at the bottom of B. I do kind of like a little bit of the lighting that they've always do, kind of like the speckles of light that were in all of them. Yeah, I went for bottom of B. I can push it to top of C. I don't really care. Next up, we get to the Force Awakens IMAX poster. I'm not a fan of this at all. This has always felt like something a high schooler could do. Honestly, it feels like something a middle schooler could do. Infographic and less of a poster. And that's what's always bummed me out about this one. I'm like, really? It's a D tier for me.
So I appreciated a little attempt at minimalism, but it is just a one random shot of Rey and BB-8, and they're just standing there. It's not, and if it was drawn, I'd give it a little bit more of a
Yeah.
boost. It is not great, so I'm cool with D tier. And then next up, we go to Rogue One's teaser poster, and Rogue One, I'm also not a massive fan of. I like it in concept. Like, I like seeing the characters running on the beach. I like seeing them fighting the stormtroopers. But in general, I preferred a little bit of the darker posters for Rogue One because they had kind of two aesthetics, right? They had the like Death Star plans, darker, more mysterious style posters. And then on the flip side, they had all the Scarif theme posters. Especially with teaser posters, I really want it to scream the vibe. So I also put this one in C.
I have a little bit of nostalgia for this one. This is like one of those posters that when you're holding it, I think it's a lot better. From a distance, especially when it's kind of blown up, you lose a little bit of it. It's something that's like a little bit more intimate. And when you're holding it up, it feels like you're kind of getting what could have been or like a version of that. And this always was a hope for me that we'd see them like run through water or something. And you don't really get that. For that reason, I'm giving it an A. Next up, we have the Style A, the main poster for Rogue One. This is actually one that I really like. It is still doing the floating heads thing, but the emphasis on Jyn Erso here and then kind of making the rest of the Rogue One crew kind of be all put together. Some of the poses and styles that they got, still very iconic promos for a lot of these characters. So the right side is Vader, the left side is the Death Star. And then you've got the where is this all gonna go down? Scarif at the bottom with all the military might. So I give it an A tier.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the Photoshop, like real people photoshops of the Disney main movie posters. I really like this one. Vader is barely visible, and then you kind of like do a double take and you can see it there. I love the way the Death Star blends in. I think the nice juxtaposition between the Scarif marketing, like I talked about earlier, on the bottom with the darker stuff on top. I think that looks really good. I like the way all the characters are similar sized and positioned towards the middle of the poster. For me, I still put it as like a top of B. Next up is the second poster for Rogue One, the Style B poster. And this is just, again, similarly to the last poster, got the same kind of blues and grays, Death Star big in the background, but I don't think it has nearly as much subtlety or detail. Just has the characters really big. And for me, this is another C tier.
Yeah, this is kind of the one that I look at and I'm like, like it gets kind of the atmosphere right of like the film, especially in that first half of the film. Yeah, it's not a great poster to me. I put it as like a bottom of B poster, just kind of ahead of some character posters, but I'm okay with dropping it. Next up, we have the Rogue One character posters. I think what they did super artistically was putting the whole schematic look over it and like going with a little bit more of the softer features for all these characters. I think they're better than the Force Awakens one. So I would still say C tier.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's still a C tier for me. I don't love character posters, but I think out of all the character posters we're talking about today, this is my second favorite. Yeah, it's just somebody's face, but they actually try to do something a little different with it. Next up, we have the IMAX poster for Rogue One. I like the idea of the Death Star. I like the X-Wings kind of dripping out. Other than that, it's kind of bland to me. It's a bunch of Photoshops people, which they don't necessarily blend as well. I don't like as much of the like normal natural lighting on their faces. So this is again another C for me.
I have to disagree a little bit because I think all those elements, like the X-Wings kind of shooting through the Death Star, really works for me. I think this is a poster that understands that it's trying to market the IMAX format. I think that's what I really give a lot of credit for. And the fact that like the Death Star doesn't even fit in here, I think is what was a smart choice. And you know, these are not some of their better poses. Kind of more of just like publicity still kind of looks for them. But I still think the execution of this is really good. I put it as like a mid to bottom A, so I guess we'd go for B. Next up, we have The Last Jedi's teaser poster. I think conceptually, I really like it. Very old school, maybe 80s-esque fantasy novel. Emphasize the colors are here. The lightsaber, the way it splits it with the blue. What I don't really love is the sizing of Luke versus Kylo. It just doesn't really match up right for me. Rather had Luke on the right hand side, but I would have liked to have seen like Kylo Ren's scar or something, that a little bit more of like a defining trait of the character. But for those reasons, I have to give it a B.
It is a weird one for me as well. I gave it a top of C because I completely agree with you about the Kylo Ren Luke thing. Like, it just kind of throws me off. The fact that Kylo's nose is where Luke's mouth is, the fact that Luke's nose is where Kylo's eye is. You're going to have the lightsaber dividing their faces in half. And kind of the point of the movie, what this is teasing is the fact that we're going to have that Rashomon style story, right? Where you don't know whose perspective is going to ultimately imprint on Rey's interpretation of both of their stories, right? She's going to have to pick between completely just dividing them in half would have worked a lot better. What I do really love about the poster, though, is the lightsaber. I love the blue to red, and I also love that it is kind of a throwback and homage to the original Star Wars poster with the lightsaber. Yeah, so for me, it's top of C. You put it in B?
Yeah, I put it in B.
And then next up, we have the main poster for The Last Jedi. And when it comes to the red and white crate design of The Last Jedi, I have a lot of love-hate relationship with a lot of the marketing. I think this poster looks really good, though. They went for something. I would have preferred, once again, like I said earlier, all of the sequel posters to kind of have a similar design and just kind of play off of that. I love the drips and kind of the scattering of the painted strokes of the red. It looks really, really nice. I would put it at like the bottom of B.
For me, this is actually one of my favorite posters to come out under Disney. It's a nice top of A. I've always liked seeing the little skimmers racing towards the ATMP and all that at the bottom. I also just love the importance in the composition. You've got Luke at the top. He's kind of like the character that's influenced the good guys and the bad guys. I like the red and white. It worked for me here. So that's why I went for top of A. Next up, we're going to talk about the next two posters combined, kind of like style B1, B2. I will say though, I've always preferred the Kylo version of this a lot more than the Rey one. I just think that it uses its red more wisely. It goes for dark and it matches his aesthetic and matches his emotionality. The red that's kind of used with Rey, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like angry red or like frustration red. It just feels like red for the sake of red. I went for the Kylo one kind of being in top of B, and then the Rey one kind of being bottom of B.
These are basically dueling posters, right? You have the dark side version, you have the light side version. Kylo one is much better. I think the grays and the blacks work much better with the red than the blue and the bright white. So I'm not a huge fan at all of the Rey one. I think it's just very, very safe. It looks like a product promotional poster. It looks like something you'd buy at Target. The Rey one I actually put like right at the bottom of C, and the Kylo one I put towards the top of C. Next up, we have the character posters for The Last Jedi. And when it comes to character posters, I really do appreciate what they did for the Rogue One posters, but the Last Jedi ones I think are the best. Now, I'm not 100% sold on the like half of their face cut off thing. Like, this isn't a government detective movie, but I do love the colors here. I love that everybody's clothes are red. I love the painted on the white. And this would be the one character poster that I would put in B tier.
Yeah, I also put this in B tier. I think in general, this and the main poster for The Last Jedi showed that there was a certain swagger to going with this very strong, like paint, blood, whatever you want to look at it as, because the heads aren't all there. It's got to go into B for me. Next, we have the IMAX poster for The Last Jedi. I mean, this is one that feels like someone else is kind of copying someone else's work, and then they threw in a couple of their own ideas, and it kind of works. Has some of the more iconic poses for a lot of characters. I threw it in the middle of the pack here. For me, I put it like a lower B.
Yeah, this is towards the top of my C. I like this better than the Kylo and Rey dueling posters. Next up, we have the main poster for Solo: A Star Wars Story. This is a really cool design. I like the Millennium Falcon cockpit stripes that kind of go through it. I like the swagger of all the characters walking. Just, it's really different. It doesn't work quite as well for me as Rogue One or Last Jedi, but it's right around the same level for me. It would be a B tier.
Yeah, this one's top of B for me. I agree. I like a lot of the elements here. This was like what could have been like the first step of a great marketing campaign. This is kind of where it peaks. So top of B. All right, and then that gets us into the solo character posters. I put them at the very bottom of B for me, but they're like C tier, honestly, in a lot of ways. There's nothing different. There's no changes in poses or anything.
Yeah, I put it in C, and a lot of it has to do with the whole plagiarism snafu, because when you got these, this is basically just a riff on the main poster. Knowing this wasn't their first choice, and then kind of going back and doing these is like a we need to get something out. This for me is an easy seed. Next up, we have the D23 teaser for The Rise of Skywalker. And this is kind of an infamous one in a lot of ways. For me, always really liked the colors on this one. I think they pop. I like that the Kylo and Rey are really far away, and you kind of have that lightning around it, which is obviously symbolizing Exegol before we got to see Exegol. The one weird thing is the really strange looking Palpatine in the back. Kind of looks like a 3D model of Palpatine, not really actually his face. Kind of like the Last Jedi one. I liked what they were going for here. I think the execution was pretty poor, though. This is like a bottom of C, top of D type of thing.
That Palpatine is not Ian McDermott. That is the Hot Toys figure, literally Photoshop. That was severely disappointing because I like a lot of the bottom half, like you said. I put it into C. Next up, Rise of Skywalker's main poster, the Style A poster. This one, I really do like a lot of the composition. I do like the blue here. I do like the red here. It's just safe, unfortunately, in composition. I wish that they use a little bit more with the color and the composition together to create something really rich, but it's solidly B.
Yeah, I would give it kind of bottom of B too, because I really love the colors. I like the way the blue and the red fight, like it does look nice. The Rise of Skywalker had the weirdest marketing of any Star Wars movie ever. I love the top half of the poster. I really like Rey's look. I like the lightsabers clashing. I like the Falcon and I like Kylo. It is just all the kind of random people floating in the middle that pulls it down for me a little bit, like a bottom of B for me. Next up, we have the IMAX poster for The Rise of Skywalker, and this is a strange one to me. Really like the blue and red. I think all that always looks nice. Blue and red always looks good, and especially when it comes to Star Wars. However, just the structure of the people in this one looks really, really weird. Like from a distance, it looks kind of nice, and then when you zoom in, you're like, wait, is that Luke? The bottom of Luke's face sticking out of Kylo Ren's helmet? Like, what is that? And I like the kind of broken Kylo Ren style helmet if that was actually his hair flowing out of the helmet, but I believe we're supposed to think it's Luke's. Luke's not really a part of this movie at all. This is like a bottom of C, top of D.
Oh, I'm gonna have to throw a little curveball here because I put this as bottom of A because this feels like what they were trying to go for with the teaser poster for The Last Jedi. The kind of the blue sun light behind Rey, I thought, and then kind of have leaving her in the shadow there. I really like that. There's something evocative about it. I don't hate the Luke kind of emerging from the bottom half, like his nose kind of being blended with the bottom half of the mask. I put it at the very bottom of A. Next up, we get to the 2020 40th anniversary poster by Matt Ferguson. I just love it. I love kind of get the cocoon that Vader emerges from, his like little meditation chamber. From there, you get the TIE fighters kind of shooting out. I really love the composition of the lasers too. For me, it kind of goes up into the middle of A.
I think it looks really, really nice. It brings in a lot of those elements that are in Empire Strikes Back, brings back the blues, brings back the whites that work really well, mixes it with blacks. I think all of it looks really, really good. So I would agree with A. And then we get to the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary poster. And this one for me works a little less. I like the Death Star viewport kind of building around the poster. And I think the indoor stuff on the bottom looks nice, but it doesn't necessarily fit as well with me color-wise with the throne room stuff as if we're comparing it to the Empire Strikes Back. The greens and the brighter colors are suffocated for the darks and the blacks of the Death Star. I would give it a B.
I do like the viewport. I think the Vader is probably the weakest Vader that we've ever gotten on any poster, but still looks pretty good. I do like kind of Luke being kind of all alone there. I wish the Emperor was a little bit bigger. Bottom A for me. And that brings us to our final poster that we're going to be discussing here, and that's the Episode 1 re-release for 2024. Big fan of this one again. Makes a smart choice of really emphasizing everything with Maul in the background. Going with a back-to-back of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon I thought was very smart. And then one thing that was always missing from the original marketing was the pod racing. It's still A.
I think the colors here work really well. I like how Padme is paired with Maul. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon will look good to me. There's always been like one little thing with like Qui-Gon's beard. I don't know what it is about it. It just kind of pops out to me. It looks a little bit more like longer, a little bushier version that we saw in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show at the end versus the version that he has in the movie. Other than that, I do really, really like this poster. That brings us to the thing we've been kind of dreading this whole video is now we have to figure out how we're going to order this. We have such varying opinions, and I've tried to group them based on the varying opinions, and here the debate begins. Well, now we have deliberated and we have come up with our official order, as you can see here. So you can check out our rankings if you want to pause the video right now and check this out. And then, as always, flashing here on the screen, you're going to see my rankings of how I would rank these posters. And then coming here right now, you'll see how Sanak would rank all these posters. Let us know how you would rank these posters. Let us know your like top 5. Did we get this all right? Did we not? Do you completely disagree with us? The fun part about this tier list is there's really no right answer. It's all completely subjective, maybe the most subjective one we've ever done. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to our memberships and Patreon program because you get to vote for next month's tier list. So make sure you do so. Thank you so much for watching this month's tier list, and we will see you guys all next time.